Joe McElderry in the title track of his new album, Here's What I Believe, and I'm delighted to say that Joe McElderry joins us live in the studio. Afternoon, evening to
Good
you.
evening.
It's great to see you here.
Thank you for having us.
It was fascinating seeing your facial expressions change as you remembered the last time you sat in this room.
Yes.
You thought happy, and then you thought, gosh, I recognise this room. Just tell listeners what happened the last time you were here.
I was here last November, and I came in, and nobody would have known when I came in because I kind of just didn't see anything, but I didn't really feel very well. And literally about 10 minutes after leaving this very studio we're in now, I got really severe food poisoning for like 24 hours, and I was extremely ill.
You hadn't eaten any of our food, had you?
I didn't.
No.
It was actually the hotel where I stayed, which I won't name.
And it was, but name the dish. It was beef stew. So let that be a lesson for everybody.
I can't eat beef stew anymore. It's horrendous.
We must talk about you because you're already on to your 4th album, and I was trying to work. Is it 3 years since X Factor?
Yeah, December. It was December 2009 when I won.
Right.
Yeah, so it's nearly 3 and a bit years now.
Well, that's been a heck of a 3 years, because suddenly, so
it.
quickly, because in a sense, X Factor, if it ever did, certainly no longer defines who you are, does it?
Well, I think, do you know what it is? It's quite, I always find that like quite a funny question, because I suppose, you know, it's where everything started, but I've always kind of wanted to just not forget about it and try and like shake it off. It's never been about that. It's just kind of building from it and learning from it. So it's nice that I've been able to have the support to do 4 albums. I mean, I can't believe I've made it here. It's been a long little journey, even though it's been only 3 years.
And you don't mean the one from the hotel to the studio. You mean your life journey rather than anything else.
Exactly.
But when you did the X Factor, you were, I think, for many listeners' histories, remarkably young. I mean, I think most listeners couldn't imagine something like happening to them at 8. Were you 18?
Yeah, I was 17 when I auditioned, and I turned 18 just as I moved into the X Factor house for the live shows. I mean, when I look back now, I didn't realise how naive I was. I mean, I'd never been away from home before. I'd never even cooked a meal. That sounds ridiculous, but I was a teenager, you know what I mean? And I moved into that house, and there was
Had you done your own washing yet?
No. No. And there was press camped outside the house and everything, and looking back now, I don't know how I actually coped with it. I coped with it very well at the time, and I had a blast, and I enjoyed it. It was one of the best experiences, but with the head I have on my shoulders now, I don't know how me little mind coped with that.
Did they teach you? I mean, did they give you briefings on, look, the press are outside, this is what you should do if, etc.?
Well, I think you can brief somebody, but there's a big difference between somebody going, right, when you walk out the door, there's going to be a load of photographers shouting at you and screaming your name, and kids chasing after your car and banging on the windows. And then when you're actually in that car, or you're walking down the street, it's totally different. You know, it's like no other experience. So it takes a lot of getting used to, and you know, there's people living in the house, researchers and people that look after you. And I mean, I was always on the phone to my mum and my dad and my family, kind of for moral support, but I kind of just didn't really think about that whole fame side of it until I actually got out of the house after. I mean,
you said you coped with the X Factor pressure and the result pretty well, but I wonder, because there's a difference between having the dream of people running after your car, screaming your name and banging on the windows, and then there's the old thing, be careful what you wish for when it actually comes true. I mean, is it all you wanted it to be?
Well, do you know what? You know what happened? Basically, they say overnight, it changed, and it literally did. Because, you know, the auditions played, the boot camp played, and people kind of, you know, they're paying attention, but not fully at that point. The judges' houses happened, and we'd moved into the house, and we'd been in hiding for 2 weeks while the judges' houses episodes were playing. And the next day after, we were allowed to go out. So I hadn't been out of the house for about a week. I'd been around the garden in the house, so I thought, oh, I'm going to walk to the local Starbucks and get a coffee, and a magazine and a drink.
And you were minding your own business.
Minding your own business. Opened the gates to the house, walked out the door, and all of a sudden, like, about 50 men jumped out of all their cars with cameras, flashes of me, and I was thinking, oh God, I forgot this is happening. And for the first time, it was funny, you know, like I thought it was a joke, but then I was like, God, this is actually quite intimidating. But
do you remember in your mind the last time you had a successful walk before this all happened? Can you remember you as Joe that you remember as a young boy growing up, and suddenly the moment that changed? Do you remember your last walk of anonymity? What did you do?
I remember a night out. I remember a night out with friends, and I was on one of them surfboards, and you know, them inflatable surfboards where they try and kick you off when you're extremely drunk. And that was probably the last time something like that happened without people taking pictures. But you know, you can't have one without the other. I understand that, and I'm very thankful for the support. And I never ever, you know, I'm not one of these people that complains about being in the public eye, because I think, you know, I put myself there, I chose to go on X Factor, and if I didn't want to do it, I could step away from it tomorrow. You know, nobody's forcing us to do it. I genuinely enjoy what I do, and I genuinely enjoy the support I get. So it's not really, I don't treat it as a negative. You know what I mean? It's not, the fame thing's not a positive or a negative. It's there, I deal with it, and I enjoy it for what it is.
Last night, actually not last night, 2 nights ago, we had a guest in, a classically trained singer by the name of, Laura Wright, who I think tonight...
I know Laura, she's signed my label.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, she's on the same label as me.
I think last night she was at the Camden Roundhouse, and she had the most amazing voice. Clearly she had been trained in that. And I didn't mention it because the pop star to opera star that you did, you must have, I mean, that must have really taught you some things.
Like, that was the biggest shock to the system ever. I mean, I committed to that show without even knowing if I was going to be able to sing this stuff. And it wasn't until I got the first rehearsal that I realised the task I had took on. And I kind of didn't even think about the fact that some pretty harsh opera critics were going to be watching it, and obviously the judges as well. But I learned so much, and the strength it gave me voice. Even for this album, you know, this album's not classical, but it's the strength vocally that it's give me voice has been incredible.
Can I ask you about the voice? Because clearly when you start doing things like the X Factor, when you're being told that you're with everybody else and it's, you know, it's a scrum and you've got to make the best of it, there's no training. And for people who sing all the time, it's about saving their voice, it's about using a diaphragm, it's about making sure you make the best of what you've got. Have you ever had any training?
I had training on the opera show, but in terms of singing lessons, I've never had like a proper singing lesson where somebody's been like, you must sing like this. On the X Factor, the vocal coach on there, Evie Burnett, she used to kind of always say, I don't want to mess with your voice. She's like, you do things different to what other singers that I work with do. She was like, but I don't want to mess with it because it sounds great, your technique's great, so it's that kind of thing. Don't spoil something if it's already okay. So I don't tend to have any lessons. I just tend to kind of rehearse every day myself and kind of teach myself. You know, I try and up the keys of the songs, change things around to keep everything fresh.
There's a whole host of people who adore things like the X Factor. There's equal numbers probably who find it abhorrent and everything about that kind of world of reality TV.
Yeah.
And I think probably that message came closest to home for you in the Rage Against the Machine #1 battle, which I think, I mean, I wonder, for listeners who don't know, you had a single out at Christmas. Which Christmas was it? 3 years ago? 2009, so 3 years ago now. And there was a huge concern from the people who dislike either you or the X Factor or reality TV. It was Simon Cowell, who were sure that at all accounts, no accounts, Cowell was going to have a #1 at Christmas. So there was this online campaign for Rage Against the Machine to succeed. Is that something that still kind of angers you, that even happened?
Do you know what it is? At the time, if I'm completely honest, I did not have a clue what was going on. I mean, I had people from the label going to me, the midweeks with this many copies behind such and such, and this campaign, and I was so exhausted from the show and so in awe of the fact that I had won. I kind of didn't really understand what was going on. I was a bit like, why are they doing this? But then I realised it was nothing to do with me, and to be honest with you, they actually ended up making us sell many more records.
Well, I was going to say, in the end.
It kind of backfired on them because they got the #1 at Christmas, but they ended up making the person that the campaign was against sell thousands more records, and then we got a #1 the week after, so it kind of backfired on them.
And how wonderful to have a Christmas #1, because I think for so many artists that is a very special #1 to have.
It is, you know, even to just, I think even to just have a single out, you know, #1s are great, but even to just be in the charts and amongst great artists is a great thing, for me personally. You know, I kind of, like last week when the album was released, I just enjoy being around talented artists in the charts and having my record day. Like, I'm proud to be alongside them.
Can I ask about your own emotions? Because you certainly knew how to make an audience go with you. When you sang Dance With My Father, which I think for so many people, either if they've got a strong relationship with their father or their father has died,
Yeah.
it means something quite special.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm imagining that there was no accident that you chose that song when you sang it on
Yeah,
the
my mum and uncle, her brother, are huge fans of Luther Vandross, and
that song is a beautiful
yeah,
song.
it's like it's one of the best songs of all time. I think the lyrics are just so beautiful, and they unfortunately lost their dad, my granddad, and they kind of, I suppose that was their like anthem, you know, like they really kind of, it helped them through a lot of stuff. And my mum used to listen to it all the time, and she actually suggested, she said, I think this song would be really good for you to sing for the audition. And I kind of said at first, do you think, I don't know whether it's too slow, you know, or it's too full on, I suppose, to sing it for the audition. And I sang it, and people just love it. I mean, it is such a classic all-time song.
And a great tearjerker, I guess, too.
Yeah.
You must want to see, when you're performing live, you must want to see audience reaction and audience response.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite funny sometimes, because I do put a lot of emotion into my songs. Whether it's a cover that I've had on an album, or I'm just covering something, or one that I've written myself, I do, like, pour emotion in all my songs. Like, it's part of what I always want to do on stage. But I'm always sometimes part of it, I'm kind of looking at people in the audience and I'm like, oh,
I've made you cry.
Don't cry, I'm sorry. But then I realise it must be a good thing if I'm making people feel that emotional about things.
I know you spend quite a lot of time in London, because you have to, I guess. It's the capital, and this is where so much
this is where it all happens.
However, home for you is absolutely clearly Newcastle, and it will remain so. You have a very strong bond to that city.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I love London, and I love being here, I love working here.
I know, but I wouldn't want to live here. I know.
Yeah, I just kind of think it separates personal life from work life. If I bought a place up there last year, and I stay there. I mean, I'm probably here more than I am up there, or half and half. But it's nice to go back, have a bit of normality, then come back, do my work, and it just splits it a bit and keeps things a bit more normal.
Let's go back to the album. The fourth album is out. I still find it amazing that you're into your fourth album so relatively early in your career. You're going to get to double figures, I reckon, very soon. And you've written quite a bit on this, so there's a lot of Joe McElderry in this.
Yeah, the first single, Here's What I Believe, which you just played, that was a song I wrote with Marcella Detroit from Shakespeare Sister. And then there's a couple of other songs on there that I've co-wrote and written with other people. Then there's a few originals that have been written for me. And then you've got like the covers as well, some well-known ones, but we've totally changed them and made them completely different to the originals.
Tell us about the Rod Stewart one. I don't want to talk about it, because for many listeners they'll know that straight away.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that?
Well, I kind of, because I'd done the songwriting and I'd kind of been creatively involved more than any other album, I wanted to pick covers that people wouldn't expect us to sing, and I've kind of heard that song and I love that song, and I thought Rod Stewart has such a different voice to me that I thought it would be good to kind of put my take on that one. Then you've got Something's Got a Hold of My Heart, Gene Pitney, which is, we've stripped it right back and made it kind of like a big like luscious ballad. Then I Look to You, Whitney Houston, which is a kind of an R&B ballad, but again stripped back. And when I need
such a lost Whitney Houston, because her voice, I remember the first time I heard her sing,
incredible,
in the mid '80s, and everybody was saying, gosh, listen to that woman's voice.
I know, incredible.
What are we going to end with? Because I said I'd leave it up to you. We've played once, we've got 12 choices left, I calculate.
I'm going to say, is it my choice?
It's your choice.
Okay, I'm going to say one that I wrote. I'll say what have I done. It's one that I wrote in the early stages of recording the album.
Listen, it's great to meet you, it's great to see you. Thank you very much for coming in. This is out now, isn't it?
Yes, Here's What I Believe, it's out now.
Here's What I Believe. And when can we see you performing in London? I'm
performing in London tomorrow night at St James's Church in Piccadilly. It's the first album launch show, and there's still a few tickets available, last few tickets available, and you can get them on my website, joemckelderryofficial.com, and you can find out where to go there.
It's good to see you. Enjoy your time in London. No beef stews, otherwise we'll be called.
We'll be in trouble.
Thanks for joining us live tonight.
Lying by your side, you make me feel alive.